A disease common to man. An analogy of sin. By Chuck Hittle. I felt tranquil that morning as I stood on the porch and watched the sun begin to peek over the purple hills in the distance. I stood there sipping my hot tea and began scanning the yard for the morning paper. I assumed the day would begin as all the others had before. As was my daily routine, I made my way to my favorite chair and searched through the paper and browsed it as I waited for my family to be jolted awake by their own individual alarm clocks. I will never forget the lump that formed in my throat as I opened the paper and read the headlines. "Disease infects thousands," caught my attention as my eyes darted across the page. I reached for the chair and sat down with a sigh as I read on about the neighboring states and all the problems they were having with this disease. It shocked me to realize that such a thing could really invade this country of ours. The article explained that the sickness was contracted by eating fruit, and it was causing crippling results. "Scientists are baffled," I read aloud as I chased each word, trying to determine how and why such a disease could so easily be a threat to us. That morning was seared into my memory as I sat shocked and wondered if we would have to deal with this disease in our state. It wasn't long before my fears were realized, as one county after another found that they too were showing signs of the virus. This plague spread like wildfire. At first it was contracted by eating fruit, but then it spread in a multitude of ways. My town was buzzing with theories about the malady's cause and origin. Some said it was the punishment of God, while others said it was an attack from our enemy. All I knew was that I was troubled about what might happen to my family and me. As the days passed, I read each morning's news, as the disease continued to creep ever closer to us. Soon the reports placed it just miles away. That spurred me on to take a closer look into the symptoms and causes. As it closed in on my home, we found ourselves praying, which was something we had seldom done before. Upon further study, I found that the disease could be caught in a number of ways and in almost any place imaginable. I remember thinking that no one would be immune to its wrath. I watched as my neighbors fell one by one from its crippling effects. I saw them limping, blind, and burdened by many other things, just beaten down by this relentless sickness. I saw it overtake my wife, and when I first felt its sting, the remorse was debilitating. As it swept across our town, there were casualties from car wrecks, suicides, and drug overdoses by those who attempted to relieve the pain that it wreaked. Yes, the disease was here, and it was here as big as life itself. Amidst this pummeling onslaught, a few observations stood out in my mind as I made my daily trek to the front porch in search of the ever-evasive newspaper. I tracked the disease all over our fine city. I noticed that some held out longer than others before contracting it. Even some held it off for quite a while. I noticed that some people were affected in a grandiose way, and in turn really made it hard on their families. Some folks were only slightly infected, and it seemed to be chiefly because of their efforts to ward off its various side effects. I found that studying about it helped me and others from catching yet another strain or form of it. Indeed, it had many forms and strains, and multiple ways to infiltrate a person over and over. Some were so impacted their lives were consumed with enduring and preventing the destruction. I don't remember the exact moment when it dawned on me, but I do remember it was a Sunday when I realized my whole town was now infected. There was only one person who had not been captured by its effects. I read that morning that the next to last person had succumbed to the disease. As each of the last and few remaining people in our country contracted it, the papers would report their names. Finally, the virus had settled itself, and the last two remaining people in the whole country had fallen to its encroachment. Only one person remained without its pain and horror, and that one person was my son. As scientists from around the globe came to our little town to study my son, I could not help but think about what might lie ahead. In the following weeks, each morning I went to the front porch and found myself guessing what the headlines would pronounce. Soon it became far too real as I opened the paper one morning and read the headline that I had dreaded would be made public. Texas boy has no disease. Well, that was it. One person left, and it was my son, and now the whole world knew it. The authorities never came to the house unless they were completely covered in hazmat-styled suits, hoods, and gloves. These scientists ran test after test, poking, probing, and tormenting my son. They constantly questioned him and required him to perform various tasks. It was as though they hated him for his immunity, yet they demanded answers at the same time. Then the inevitable day came, the dreaded day I had knowingly and carefully planned for. They made it clear. They wanted his blood. Through all their tests and analysis, they realized the only solution was my son's blood. They called us together as a family to give us the news. "Mr. Chuck," they said, "we need your son's blood to create the serum that will save mankind. The answer is in his blood, and we need all of it." "What?" I asked. "Did you say all?" "Yes," they brashly declared. "Your son must die for us all to be saved." I shouted, "Get out of my house, just get out of here." Then an innocent little voice, a still small voice, said, "It's okay, Dad, I will do it." "What?" I asked. "Yes, I will willingly do it." "After all," he bravely said, "if I do, then the world will be able to live." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was so proud and shocked as I accompanied him to the research vehicle to give his blood and his life. As he neared the end, I couldn't watch any longer, so I turned my head as his life slipped away, and he was gone. The coming days were so complicated that I don't have words to express what took place. I watched as many in my town just completely and almost instantly recovered. I would talk to them and bring up my son's name, and they would stare at me as though they were confused and ask, "Who?" They didn't even know my son's name. I began to organize rallies to celebrate his gift to the world. I organized a celebration one Sunday to celebrate his gift to our town. To my shock and dismay, only about 29% of the town showed up. To make things worse, some in attendance complained about the music, others slept, and even others played games on their cell phones during the celebration. Some people showed up late. Others were there only to see if there was any free stuff. I couldn't believe that my son gave his life for theirs, and far too many did not care to celebrate their renewal, healing, cleansing, and freedom. I found some people in the lobby of the venue networking and trying to sell their wares. Others stood around outside smoking and complaining that the music I had chosen was not their type or was too loud. I wanted to shout, "Are you kidding me? He gave his life for you, come on!" I was astonished they couldn't just put themselves aside for a few minutes to honor the life-giving gift that they had received. Centuries have passed since that great day, and my son's life-giving gift is still being remembered by some. I travel around to different locations to celebrate with those who acknowledge this gift and to remember all that it means to us and millions around the world. Many books have been written about this priceless gift, and many people teach of his generosity and bravery. I trust by now, dear friend, you understand that he gave his life to cure the disease that everyone has. And just think it all started with eating a piece of fruit. Listen, God so loved the world, so loved you, that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish, but will have eternal life. John chapter 3, verse 16. Thank you for listening to my analogy of sin, redemption, and the world. Blessings and goodbye.